You've always known, not from textbooks, not from class, not from anybody actually sitting you down to explain things to you. It's just you walk into a room, and before anybody says anything, you feel like something is off, right? Or you sit next to somebody at a gathering or at an event, and the next thing they start sharing their deepest, darkest secrets with you, or they start telling you things they've never told their family members, or things they've never told their closest friends, right? And it's not because you asked them about it, it's more because they felt something in you that could hold that, right? That could hold them, so to speak. And you find yourself like in a situation and you just like say, I'm not meant to be here, right? And then you step out of the space, and the next thing you heard something happened or something occurred within the span of a couple of minutes or whatever. But nobody ever called it what it was, right? Nobody ever called it psychology. Nobody ever called it philosophy. They always said like maybe you were sensitive or you were intuitive or you were just good with people, right? And nobody ever said it was like a knowing, so to speak, that a law of civilizations have carried over time, right? Nobody ever called it psychology and philosophy, as I've said, right? And maybe because if they called it that, maybe it would give a realization that this is what they've been charging for. My name is Oluwatobi Monololao. For the purpose of this video, call me Toby. I'm Nigerian and I live in British Columbia, Canada, on the land of indigenous people. Well, before they gave it the name Canada, right? They've carried the knowing before it's been known to be called Canada as well. I need to tell you something about myself, so every other thing I say after that would make a little bit of more sense to you. And when I was young, I used to question a lot of things, right? I used to just ask why. Every time I was the why child, not like the sense of just asking why, but just needing to know the essence or the purpose of things, right? In that sense, like they'll tell me something in church, like the others will say something in church, and I'll be like, why? And they just say, just because. And I'm like, okay, why is it just because, right? There has to be a reason behind it just because, but they still give me the same thing, like, go and sit down, it's just because, right? And it's more like somebody giving you a cup and they're telling you you're drinking water while the cup is empty. It doesn't necessarily jive with my sense of questioning things, right? And the questioning continued. I'll go to school, I would ask why. I'll go to maybe like adults will be having conversations. I know, nosy child, right? I'll just be like, okay, why are these things that you're saying true, or why are these or why are these things that you're saying real? And then they just say just because that's how we met it in a sense, right? They don't give the reasoning behind what has been said. At some point, right, I stopped asking. Well, I stopped asking out loud. I was still asking internally, right? And if you see me looking down, it's me just trying to gather my thoughts. Because if I don't read like the things I've written down, I would go this way, and we'll spend like 3 hours here. I'm thinking maybe like 15, 20 minutes will be done, but let's see if I don't deviate from what's down. But my deviation is still going to make sense at the end of the day if I end up deviating, right? But anyways, as I said before, right, I eventually stopped acting out loud, right? But the searching was still going on in my mind. And I guess the search is the reason this video exists. I've been sitting with a lot of things of recent, and maybe I'll just call upon you as well to just sit with me with, yeah, maybe I'll call upon you to sit with me, right? Why does it seem like psychology is foreign, or why does it seem like philosophy is something that is meant to be in like lecture halls and just be like, oh, so the parody of this is this? The hell? Well, why can't it be like something in like your grandma's kitchen or something? See how I just infused the fact that I'm in the kitchen into it, right? But the point is, why does it feel like something that is out of the scope of the everyday people? Psychology is more like a everything sometimes, right? But at the same time, humans are heavy. Humans are not necessarily light. We are, so I think we are the heaviest substance on earth, if that makes sense. And Well, there's something I've come to understand, and I believe a lot of people do understand it as well. And I guess we are kindred spirits, so to speak, right? The grandmother that used to just tell you not to hold in anger because it might burn you up from the inside, that's a form of psychology that she was performing, right? The elder that used to just enter a room and nobody had to tell the elder that something went on in the room, and it just was like, something happened. I guess it's performing like a sense of psychology and philosophy together, right? Or the person that felt something in their body, that something was off, right, or something was wrong before anybody gave them a single evidence, or before there was a single evidence to prove what was going on within them, right? They were practicing a form of knowing, so to speak, is knowing that has a name in all the traditions I've seen. I wanted to say every tradition, but all the traditions I've seen, right? And in Yoruba, we call it Ori. Ori, just the direct translation is head, but within the philosophy of Yoruba, it is your inner head. The closest thing I can give in like colloquial terms is, I think, your third eye, but that's too simple. Or maybe let's say your North Star, right? Is that a gut feeling that tells you not to put that glass cup right there, because once you put it right there, within the next 5 minutes, and you still put it there, but within the next 5 minutes something happens and the glass cup breaks. That's like your Ori giving you a direction, but you didn't listen. It's like this quiet voice within you as well, right? And it's like the part of you that knows even when your mind is still struggling with the direction, so to speak. In Arabic, the Sufi naf, they call it marifa, and that's like a direct knowing. It's a knowing that you have to live. It's a knowing that you have to become. It's not a knowing that is written down somewhere, that, and it's not like that kind of knowing, right? In Sanskrit, it's called yana. In the yana, yes. And here's the thing, right? That word yana and the Greek word gnosis, they come from the same root. That's what, like, in my in colloquial terms, where I'm from Nigeria. When you're speaking pidgin, I'll say it bust my brain. So that the first day I saw that thing, the thing actually bust my brain, right? Because it was more like a lot of things are connected, and we tend to just skip over them without necessarily just sitting with them and saying, oh, this is actual things that people have known for ages, and we think we are unveiling new things, but there's a concept in my language that says nothing is new under the sun. I guess it's everywhere as well. Nothing is necessarily new under the sun. Because you've not seen it before doesn't mean it never existed, right? And since I said the same word in a sense, yana and gnosis, thousands of miles apart, thousands of years ago, right? Because that kind of knowing is not necessarily just cultural, it's not necessarily just religious. It's a knowing that it's human. It's a human knowing, so to speak, right? And so overall, why does it then feel like it's something that you need permission, in a sense, to feel, if that makes sense? Why does it feel like something you need permission or someone else's permission to have, right? Let's just go a little bit into history, just a little bit, but we have to be careful when talking about things like this, not to be insensitive or not to say things without necessarily giving it proper context, right? Because yes, the stories have been cleaned up over time, but the real versions, in a sense, still matter. It's not like they still matter, they actually do matter. The real versions are the only versions that matter. For some of us, like the knowing, that knowing I'm talking about, the human knowing I've been talking about, like it's not like, it's a knowing that's been taken away, right? And when I say taken away, I'm not saying it like metaphorically taking away something. I'm saying like taking it away through policies. I'm saying like taking it away through like violence and action, right? Let's say, let's use Yoruba Ifa system, right? That's the Ifa system of knowledge. It comes like, it contains 256 odus. Like those are oral traditions, right? Oral volumes of philosophy, of medicine, of ethics, of cosmology. They are all held in memory, right? Passed down between generations, passed down from centuries, passed down from millennia, right? And at some point, British colonial people came around and then they said, what's this? This is superstition. And I've noticed, like, when people do not understand things, they fear it a lot of times. So when a lot of people fear things that they do not know or they've never seen before, they don't understand, and then they term it as bad because they do not understand it. It means it's negative in a sense, right? And missionary schools came around, and then languages were stripped away, languages were banned, right? Let's use even like a closer time. There's somebody called there's a writer called Ngugu wa Thiong'o. That is he was a Kenyan writer, right? He co-wrote a book he co-wrote something in 1978. He co-wrote a play rather in 1978, right? In his own language, and he was imprisoned for it. Why? Because he was speaking to his people in the language of his people. And I'm like, how does that even make sense? Let's go to let's come to Canada here where I live, right? Indigenous children were taken from their families, right, and they were placed in residential schools built to sever like the connection to their own tradition, right? Even like to their own language, their languages were banned and everything. The funniest thing, not a funny thing, but it's the wildest thing. Let's say the wildest thing that I saw was like it was the last school was actually closed in 1996. And the saddest part of it is like researchers in the University of British Columbia found something like when they studied those indigenous communities, right, across the province of British Columbia, in communities where at least like half of those members could still speak their own language, the youth unaliving rate was it dropped effectively to zero. In a sense, if we look at it, languages are a way we humans communicate our humanity to another human being, right? So if like you, because in my language there are some words that if I translate to Yoruba, if I translate to English rather, that's my language is Yoruba. So if I translate some words in Yoruba to English, it doesn't carry the same meaning. I was trying to translate Ori to English now, it wasn't carrying the same meaning, right? It's like so, in a sense, if you strip me of my language, I'm not fully communicating my humanity to you in a sense as well, right? So, in that sense, like, it's as if one is being stripped of their humanity when you strip them away from their culture, or from their languages, or from their traditions. And the fact that that stripping costs so much havoc, and the fact that if only 50% of people within a particular community still speaks that said language, it drops the unaliving rate to effectively zero, right? It's not therapy that did that. It's not some sort of program that did that. It's the language. That's the connection to tradition. That's the connection to another person, right? The knowing in a sense, right? If that knowing in a sense is still somewhat intact, it's like keeping humanity alive, right? But and at some point somebody went into that community and decided like, nah, this is not a decent community, or this is not a proper way of speaking, or this is not something I understand, so it is bad. If that you get my point, right? So let's take it to Europe a bit, right? In the age of enlightenment, right, which like age of enlightenment came with a promise that only what can be measured is real, right? If cannot be measured, is not real. And slowly, like the folk healers, the herbalists, the people who understood grief through the body, right, and not through like a chart, the people who understood like emotions and human nature through just the body, like the grandma that can look at a lady and be like, in a couple of months you will hear the cries of a child. Because they could not measure it through some kind of test, in a sense, it means the grammar was wrong. They stripped the people in Europe as well of their own knowledge as well, right? And it became the fact that if something is unscientific, is embarrassing. If something is not on a chart, is embarrassing. If it's not like, if something is like not educated in a sense, everybody has moved past it, right? When I say educated, I'm talking about the Western kind of education, right? And at some point between 1450 and 1750, right, tens of thousands of people got capital punishment if they still practice that kind of practice, right? The majority of those people that got the capital punishment were women. And here's I don't know if it's a difference or an alignment, so to speak. Some of us had it taken through force. Some of us had it taken through laws. Some of us had that same knowing taken through schools, taken through prison. Some of us had it taken in a sense of like shaming, like they shamed it out of some of us by our own institutions even. And the forgetting was different in some people. The forgetting was unique in some people, but the point here is like the all that that I left is still the same. The all of that something is missing is still the same, right? The founders of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the most widely practiced form of therapy in the world, right, they said it openly that they got the core concept of CBT from Stoic philosophy. That's a from a Greek philosopher called Epictetus, right? Practically, if we want to do like, is it in mathematics? Is it transitivity? I forgot it. If A is equals to B and A is equals to C, that means B is equals to C, right? If you want to use that kind of way, that means Epictetus kind of wrote the foundation of cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Which like 2,000 years ago, before CBT, that's a cognitive behavioral therapy, had a name, right? And another one is a Buddhist practitioner named John Kabat-Zinn. He studied Zen teachers for years, and then he deliberately stripped the Buddhism out of mindfulness, right? So Western institutions would actually accept it. His own words, not mine. He described it as bending over backwards to avoid being seen as Buddhist, right? That practice right now is a multi-billion-dollar industry right now. Yet it came from people millennia ago, stripped of the original essence of it and just stripped of the meat on it and then just gave it the bones, so to speak, right? These are not accusations. These are just practical historical receipts, right? This is not me accusing anybody of anything. This is just me showing a trend in history, right? The knowing was always there. It just got renamed. It just got rebranded. It just got like sold back to people in a sense. In 2023, I moved to Canada from Nigeria. Prior to that, I was first in Germany. Before COVID happened, I went to Texas to visit my family in Texas, my sisters in Texas, because Germany was not really making sense for me. And then I got stuck in Texas because of COVID and because of all the issues that happened, right? And at some point, everybody got free again, so to speak, and then I could go back to Nigeria. And then I worked as an investment banker in Nigeria for 2 years. That's in 2020. I left Texas in 2020 and I went back to Nigeria. I worked as an investment banker in Nigeria for 2.5 years to 3 years, right? And then we left in 2023. I and my partner left Nigeria in 2023 and we moved to Canada here, right? Basically, just a new country, new network, shared apartment. My partner, and a friend of ours. We went to high school together. We shared the apartment together before his partner came as well, right? It was basically just new rules that nobody, in a sense, wrote down, but everybody or everyone, in a sense, enforced it, if that makes sense, right? I'm telling you this to say, okay, at some point, I realized like the living situation was toxic. I used to be able to read things, but at some point, I'm like, I know this person, why should I be unnecessarily cautious, right? I wasn't listening to myself. When you don't listen to that direction that is pointing you, it's like something is not right here, something is not right here, right? But the living environment was toxic. Within the first 3 months, police already came to the house because of some issues that happened that came up because of our living neighbors, so to speak, right? And within that, some well, we accepted the fact that okay, maybe it was a mistake and all those kind of things, right? But now, over time, right, there was a realization, right, that but Toby, you used to be able to read people. Why didn't you just listen to yourself? You used to be able to walk into a room and you will notice like something is off. Why didn't you listen to that? And then I was more like, at some point I just realized, okay, now that you're finally listening to yourself. You can now finally, in a sense, use that form of knowing that used to be like a warm form of knowing to then protect yourself, right? To then protect your partner as well, right? Well, I guess I had to make like a decision that nobody, in a sense, teaches, right? I already went off, so I had to get back to myself. I guess I had to make a decision that nobody teaches, right? When to stop being warm and to find, not to be cruel, but to stop letting the warmth, in a sense, be the thing that people use to get past your guard, if that makes sense, right? In a sense, would I say one stopped being a sheep in that context and then went to be a lion, or rather, let me say I went to be a sheepdog, so to speak. Nobody sat me down to say, oh, this capacity you have to read situations, to feel people, to know when to move and when to hold, right? That it's psychology or anything that is like ancient or is something that came through you or came from your people as well, in a sense. I guess I learned to use that part of me to protect myself the way every generations before me have done it, through surviving. They learned it through surviving as well, right? And when I came out of the other side with my partner and out of the say toxic season with my partner, I realized something, right? That kind of changed the direction of my being, or changed the direction of my life, so to speak. The kid who kept asking questions, like the kid who kept asking why in church, who kept just asking why everywhere, it wasn't gone. It just got quieter about it, and every answer I found was still, in a sense, I don't know, maybe carrying it alone or carrying it in a secretive way, right? I don't know if I would say I didn't want anybody to feel that way again, or I guess since I know that this is who I am or this is what I am, I guess there are a whole lot of people out there as well that might be like that and that are like that, not might be like that, that might need a reminder as well. Because if I had somebody to remind me, maybe I wouldn't have gone some weird directions in my life as well, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is I want to speak directly to anyone who is watching this that might still be here, because it's been a while and I don't know how long I've been rambling for. Anyone that's still here watching this, maybe you grew up in an environment where the knowing was punished, where you felt something that is true and then you said it out loud and you got laughed at or you got shut down, or where trusting your instinct got you hurt so many times that you just stopped trusting it altogether, right? Or maybe someone needed you not to know, or because your knowing, in a sense, was inconvenient for them, so you kind of buried it, right? Now and it now feels like you don't have it anymore. But here is what I need you to understand: it didn't leave. It just went underground. The knowing did not disappear. It just learns to be quiet when it doesn't get somebody to listen to it, right? Sorry. It just learns to wear a different face. In psychology, they might call it masking, right? Just learn to wear a mask, right? It learns to just wait until you're ready to listen and adhere to it again. And if you've been following my page before, but if you are new here, you can just check some topics that I've done. I've not done them in long form. I've done them in shorts, right, in YouTube shorts, and you can see like I've covered topics like fear, basically like fear that we were taught as kids, right, showing up in how we actually move today. I've said something about like procrastination. That's not laziness. It's just something that we learned over time. Like because our brain, in a sense, likes predictability, right? And even if a situation is dangerous, it's like the brain likes the devil you know now rather than the angel you don't know, so to speak, right? There's a saying like that, like in a sense, like certainty is even if this particular period is dangerous, I know like this is a certain danger. I don't know what is uncertain coming ahead if I go another direction, right? But the point here is like we've covered procrastination and then we've covered inner critic as well. Practically all these things are kind of interwoven and connected all together. It's something that came from childhood or even our middle ages, right? And then the voice, in a sense, just got louder in our head. It got louder than our own voice, and it got interwoven into how we see ourselves, like that self-worth as well. We covered that as well, and we covered like motivation. We covered like neurodiversity and things like that, right? Every single week, in a sense, there is still the same story. Something real in you is being covered up. The knowing is the same story. Something really new is being covered up by not when you don't listen to it. When you do not like, I get, as I said before, there might be situations that might be dangerous that have pushed you to not want to listen to it. But and if you're watching it from like a place of where the knowing is still being punished, so to speak, like I want you to hear this: the fact that you are here means it's still alive in you, right? And it still needs you to listen to it. It didn't leave you, and in a sense, maybe it sent you here. The fact that you can listen to me ramble for, let me say, 15 minutes now, it means it sent you here to continue or to urge you to actually listen to that knowing, right? There are people all over the world carrying things that they've never been given a language for, right? Not because the language is not there, or not because the language does not exist. It's just because for over centuries now, or for over time now, like, I guess the language has been covered up, I guess. And in, like, the language has been there, like, let's say Ori, I mentioned Ori before. The language has been there in Ubuntu. Ubuntu is basically is a South African philosophy. It's I am because we are, or I am because you are, in a sense of I am a person because you are a person. I am human because there are other humans. That's what Ubuntu. That's the essence of Ubuntu, and the eightfold path in Buddhism, as well as the Stoic journals, and also your basically just the grandmother's kitchen, as I mentioned before, and the elders' proverbs as well, right? The language exists, the access, in a sense, does not. If that makes sense. So all I'm saying all of that to say, I came to an understanding that I want to build something. I want to build accessibility to those languages, if that makes sense. I call it UHURU. UHURU is a Swahili word. It means freedom. UHURU basically, to me now, as I'm seeing it in my head, is more like a psychological curriculum that is built from traditions, right? And built from belief systems, but built from those knowledges, right? That has been passed down through generations, right, through centuries, through millennia, and broken down so anyone can actually hold it and understand it. As the Yoruba Ifa system mapped, the Yoruba Ifa system mapped architecture of the human mind before Western psychology had a name for it. Buddhism addressed the burnout problem in people like 2,500 years ago, before researchers confirmed it. That willpower is not a tank that can be exhausted, rather, that willpower is not a tank that empties, right? Ubuntu understood like relational healing long before group therapy or group session therapy came along, right? The science just confirms, or just like is just coming to understanding what these traditions have known for ages and for millennia, basically, right? And that's what I'm looking to build. I'm trying to see if we can learn this together, because I'm basically just a student of the world, so to speak. I'm not a therapist. That's what I want you all to know. I'm not a therapist. I'm just a student, as I said, and I have a master's degree in data analytics engineering and a bachelor's in statistics. I love to learn things, and I guess the reason I'm learning is to share as well with people, because if people did not share all these things they knew, I wouldn't be here as well. So I guess I'm just more like a conduit to the knowledge that is already given to us, and I'm trying my utmost best, so to speak, to make it more accessible to people who might not have the time to do the research themselves. That's basically what UHURU is all about. I'm not teaching you things you do not know. I'm basically just giving you a language for something you already carry. Because the grandmother who told you not to carry grief, as I said before, without the word attachment theory, she was always right? The elder who told you to sit with a decision before you made it, he was practicing something researchers now call executive function regulation, right? That feeling in your gut when something is off, right? That's your Ori, the oldest and most accurate guiding system a human being has, and it is yours. It has always been yours, not because you paid for it, not because you earned credentials, but because you are human. And this is what humans know, right? I said in the beginning, you had always known things, right? And somewhere along the way, through school, through survival, through people who needed you smaller, you started to wonder if that was real. It is real. It was real. It will always be real. And something in this video felt familiar. That's why you're still here. Not new to you, but familiar to you. That's not a coincidence. And that knowing recognize itself. I guess all I'm saying now is come with me on this journey of learning, and I hope something keeps resonating with you going forward, because we are not done yet. Stay jiggy. Bless. And subscribe if you've not subscribed.